Let's talk about SJP, aka Sarah Jessica Parker, aka Carrie Bradshaw, because that's what she's most famous for playing. It seems like, if you believe the reports, she can't seem to leave the whole Sex in the City universe alone because, according to Rob Shooter over on his Substack, she wants another go at Sex in the City, this time in cinematic form. So, because she doesn't know how to leave well enough alone, and because she's become very, very rich from playing Carrie Bradshaw over the course of 6 Sex in the City seasons, 3 and Just Like That seasons, and 2 movies, and a Partridge in a Pear Tree, Sarah Jessica Parker is still keeping the dream of a third Sex in the City movie alive. Now, SJP may want you to believe that, and Just Like That, put the final nail in the coffin that is Sex in the City. But word on the street is that she's quietly doing the opposite, lobbying behind the scenes for one final Carrie Bradshaw comeback. She just can't walk away, a Hollywood insider insists. SJP's been meeting privately with producers, pitching the idea of a last hurrah, one big movie to properly finish what And Just Like That didn't. But not everyone's buying it. Studios are hesitant after the abysmal ratings in reaction to the reboot's final season. There's franchise fatigue, one executive admits, and the truth is, Sarah doesn't have another major hit waiting in the wings. Sex in the City is her identity. Without Carrie, what does she have? Now, as for Parker, the franchise has been a lifeline since 2004, a brand, a persona, a global crown jewel. Those close to her say that she's scared that ending Carrie means ending her own relevance in the cultural zeitgeist. Saying, quote, Carrie made her a superstar. She's terrified that without that character, she just fades. If this movie gets greenlit, it won't be just for the fans. It'll be SJP's final attempt to keep Carrie and herself immortal. Now, look, if Kim Cattrall is like, after all the things that was happening, and you couldn't even get her to come back for And Just Like That, except for a cameo where she had to be shot separate from all the other cast in a car on a phone call, and that was her scene, and she was in sidebar. This kind of makes me think, like, what's going on over there? Because how was it that Kim Cattrall was able to get Pat Field to come back and do her overall wardrobe, but Pat Field couldn't even come back to And Just Like That to help with the wardrobe? And everybody's been talking about how horrible a lot of the wardrobe has been, particularly for Carrie on And Just Like That. I like Sex and the City. I told you I was watching it the other day. Yes, that is SJP's identity. That is like her most iconic and most famous role. But I just feel like with the whole Sex in the City thing, it was good for what it was at the time that it came out. I just don't feel like, and you tried it already, when it came to And Just Like That, it just, you couldn't make a show like that work in today's climate, because what you were doing was, instead of trying to tell a story about how women of a certain age are navigating through the trials and tribulations of living in the upper echelon parts of New York City, and how you're navigating in this world that has changed via social media, via you being older women and trying to compete with younger women in the same world in which you were once a part of in the 90s and the 2000s. Instead of you playing within that, and then the relationship stuff, instead of y'all focusing on that, instead of focusing on all this other stupid stuff, which kind of took us out of the show. And it's like, are we watching the same show? Because what is Michael Patrick King doing with these ladies? Like, this is not, y'all not giving me what it was that we liked about these flawed characters during the Sex and the City era. Now you're bringing these people in and y'all trying to just walk on eggshells. You're not allowing them to just be unapologetically walking around with rose-colored glasses on. That's kind of like what it was with a lot of these girls. Let Charlotte be the uptight, pain in the ass that she's always been. Miranda definitely being the lawyer control freak. She started being like this weak dilly-daddler with Che and all. I'm like, what? Because she a lesbian, she eat pussy in real life, we gotta now incorporate that in the show? I mean, I understand if, because there are late in life homosexuals that come out, or people that get involved in relationships with someone of the opposite gender, and then later on in life they come out as queer. That exists, and you could have played that up. But then you had her becoming like this big doofus next to the most annoying characters in the history of the show. And there's been many annoying people that have popped up on Sex and the City, but not as bad as Che. So I feel like at this point, because y'all didn't know what y'all was doing in regards to this show, you didn't know what kind of story I wanted to tell. It was just annoying, and I just weren't really feeling a lot of the characters on there. The only ones that really had like a interesting storyline was Charlotte with her kids and that sort of situation. That I was like, okay. Charlotte had the interesting storyline. I hated what y'all was doing, Miranda, and Carrie was getting on my damn nerves. So and then it felt like y'all were trying to shoehorn in these diverse cast members because there was bitching and complaining about the lack of diversity on the show back in when it was in its heyday. Which I'm like, even if you don't want to have black people on your show, whatever the case, if you want to tell a story about a bunch of, uppity white women on the Upper East Side or the Upper West Side, the Upper North Side, or the Upper South, there's no such thing as Upper North or Upper South, but you know what I'm saying. If you want to have them in these upper areas, these areas of the Upper East Side, Upper West Side, whatever, Midtown Manhattan, if you want to tell those stories, that's great. But what I didn't like with the fact was, yeah, you're doing a show in New York and you're not showing that there's a melting pot of different people that they could just be encountering just in different scenes. You're making it seem like New York City is white. If you ever come to New York, you see is a melting pot of very diverse group of people. That's why when Ice tried it the other day, coming up in here thinking that y'all was going to treat New York City like y'all was Chicago and all them other places that y'all was, trying to start your mess in, there was a lot of pushback from protesters where they was getting into physical altercations with ICE. I was like, nah, what y'all doing over there, you ain't bringing that up in here, especially the way how culturally diverse New York City is. So that was just one of my complaints. Other than that, tell your story how you need to tell it. But New York is very diverse. And for you not showing that, because typical Hollywood and how they think, you want to act like you're liberal, but you're much more conservative than you let on. And that was just my overall situation. So if this story is to be true, if we were led to believe this story as truth from Rob Shooter's Substack, I don't think we need another Sex in the City thing. We don't need a wrap up of the movie because the way y'all was running around, and this is how I knew they was lying. Because they was like, oh no, we meant to wrap it up this season. Now this story coming out that she want to do one last hurrah in the form of a movie. And it's like, but y'all said this was how y'all was wrapping it up, which I know it goes to show like, no, this wasn't the plan. Y'all had probably another season up in you, but they were saying because how bad the season was and how horrible the ratings was, now they want to sit up here and say, oh no, we canceling the show, that we're losing too much money. And nobody cares. Clearly, nobody cares about Sex and the City. And you seen there was a lot of people that was on social media. The overall consensus was people was shading the show. They were hate watching the show. And it was a lot more negative than positive stuff that was coming out about it. So I'd rather just live with the memory of, if I want to relive the rehash or relive the era of Sex and the City and how New York looked before it just had went through its drastic changes, I just watched the old shows over on HBO Max because that's when you can watch it. And just like that, it was like after half of season 2, I never went back because I'm just like, these seasons are getting worse and worse. And then I started hearing the stories about season 3. I was like, well, damn, now I don't even really need to feel that I need to invest in this show if it's that bad. So I say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story? Do you believe that the story regarding the fact that, yes, SJP wants one last hurrah as Carrie Bradshaw? I mean, I wouldn't put nothing past her. First of all, I heard that she's got a documentary coming about Ukrainian ballet dancers or something that was just picked up. So she's busy with that. Maybe I guess she could do documentaries or produce other projects or try to find another project to be a part of. But I do definitely think that it's time to hang up Carrie Bradshaw's Manolo Blahniks for good. So let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments down below.